Okay, so now I'm going to take off the salt and see what it's done. That's strange, actually. Okay, so it's made dark marks. Okay, so let's see what happens when we take off the masking fluid. Be a little bit careful about this because sometimes I've actually left this overnight because sometimes if the page isn't completely dry, it will tear the page. Also, if you've left it on for too long, it can tear the page when you're taking it off. So just rub it very gently, but you'll still have to, kind of, you can see how I'm rubbing it here. You know, you still have to kind of give it a good rub. But just if you feel it starting to lift, then stop and come at it the other way. Some people use an eraser when they're doing it, and some people, because it can get a little bit sore on your fingertips, you know, so a putty rubber can be useful as well to take off the excess. Right, so it's been a day, and these 4 little, I don't know, what would you call them, vignettes, are what they are. The salt didn't work terribly well because I'd used coarse sea salt, which I don't normally use. I normally use ordinary salt. So, you know, I've got little dark blobs rather than light blobs. I'll show you again what happens the way I would normally do it. This one here is quite nice. It's very pale, but it's, you know, interesting. Now, you can add to it by layering on. Remember our layering exercises? So I could put yellow wash over the whole thing here, and the water would go green and the top would go orange, and the boat itself would be a kind of yellow color. I might do that with half of it just to show you how that works. Okay, so let's get back here to this brush. I've got clean water. Wash the brush off, and I'm going to use lemon yellow, excuse me, over that. Just to see what happens. Okay, let's get enough in there. Bring this over a little bit so it's in the line of the camera. Okay, so I'm going to put my very sophisticated technique here, putting the masking tape. This table actually tilts that I have, but then the camera will move and it's just too messy. So I'm going to lay this wash down. Do you remember our layering technique that we did? The page is completely dry, so it should just stay. It shouldn't affect. What I'm trying to say is that the paint underneath shouldn't run at this stage because it's had a good 24 hours to dry. See the difference? It's quite fun. Maybe I'll put blue on the other side and see what happens. I've got purple sky. Now, you see, these are exercises. These are not going to be finished paintings, but they're to give you ideas as to how you can go about creating a finished painting. And, you know, we can run the 2 of these together. All right? If I want, I can take out some of the paint to lighten up some of the areas. Okay, so this one here, I'm seeing, and I like the red and the blue, so I'm not going to change that. I'm just going to mix up a little bit of darker blue. Notice I haven't cleaned my palette since yesterday. I've left my colours there because I might want to use them again. Okay, so I need to try and do this so that you can see what I'm doing. With the tip of my brush, and my brush, I'm holding it very upright, I'm picking out what to me looks like maybe trees in the background. Now, this is where I'm working what we call from light to dark. So the first layer that we've done is quite pale. Think of tones. So if we think of 3 tones, I'm not going to put a huge amount of information into this, but you see already we've got kind of, I'll take closer photographs of these when the video's done, when they're finished, to show you. So, sorry, I can't talk when I'm concentrating sometimes. So I'm just, it's quite wet, and I'm putting much, like almost strong pigment, just without any water into the bottom of that, right? Now, just clean off my brush. Decisions. I'm just going to get my brush now. See, I have my brush so that it's almost flat. Where's the camera? Can you see the tip of the brush? I've run my finger on it like that, so it's kind of that kind of shape, right? So I'm going to just go drag the paint down so that it kind of bleeds to give kind of an imaginative composition, really. It's almost a landscape, but it's not quite. And it's maybe this. Yeah. Okay. So a dry brush. I'm just going to drag it across here to give. All right. Have I ruined it? Does it matter? Now, again, I've got tip of my brush into almost the paint that's just come out of the tube. I'm working wet into wet here, but because it's nearly dry, it won't travel as far. The paint won't dilute so much, so it's giving me a darker, maybe a little bit more water. Maybe a little bit. You can always add water when it's wet. If you start adding water when it's dry, you're going to end up with puddles and different things. So I mean, some of you will see something in it, and some of you will probably say, what is that? What is she doing? She's just making a mess on the page. Some of her work ends up quite abstract, certainly when you look closely at it. But if you look closely at an awful lot of paintings, they are, you know, the watercolours are not photographically realistic. Well, so you can, but good watercolours to me aren't. They suggest. It's a suggestion. So, you know, keep it simple, and if you don't need to put it in, don't put it in. Looking at it in the camera, this area here, to me, looks a bit too dark. I'd like some highlights in there. So I'm just going to take a little bit, just lighten up some sections in, I think they're trees. Should know, shouldn't I, since they're mine? Now, so let's move down here to the flowers. Trying to decide what kind of flowers they are. I haven't a clue. I thought they were dog roses, but I don't think so. So anyway, doesn't matter. Just going to give them little red centers. See, this is where if we had a live class, I'd be kind of going, what do you think I should do here? And so that's my cadmium red. And I'm going to be very bold and mix it straight in to my ultramarine blue, because I want some nice dark areas in there, and I want them strong. So, and I'm letting them run in to the bottom of where I've put the red, if you can see. All right. I wonder, can I zoom in? Can you see? Okay, it's quite good. Actually, move that up there. Oh, right. Now, so I'm going to get my dirty blue and yellow and make my, again, I'm using the same brush all the way through. Try to get used to using a bigger brush than you think you're going to need. A good watercolor brush like this one, which is the one from Cork Art Supplies, and it's you know, you can get lovely thin lines with it, you'd be surprised, and you can get nice thick lines as well. So it's a very versatile brush, and if you look after it, it should last you. Now, to get depth in objects, you need a variation in tone for shape. Light and dark areas in the object, no matter what it is. So I'm just using straight blue on top of the green that I mixed up already with the lemon yellow and the ultramarine blue. Now for the I think I'm going to leave the flower white, but it's not going to be pure white. So, well, it's white, but white is never white. So I've mixed up a very pale crimson red and ultramarine blue. I'll bring this up closer so you can maybe see what I'm doing. Now, you see there, I've dried my brush off, and I'm softening the edge, so I have what's called lost edges. A soft edge, can you see? And again, I'm going to come in here with it, even drag out some of the, so that you have a bit of variation in tone in your white flower. I'm using a clean brush now, and I'm just pushing it back up into that colour, letting it bleed out a little bit. If it bleeds out too much, dry off your brush and just lift it back with the brush. All right. Whoops, sorry. Now, and the other one, I'm going to do it the same. So now there's an extra petal on this one here. Don't know what happened there. Anyway, not to worry. I'm just going to basically do the same. Don't want to I want to say something about the way I'm using the brush here. If you notice, I'm using it this way, this way, this way, and all different directions. Don't be stuck with, you know, you're not writing a letter when you're painting. You don't have to use the brush from just one angle. the same as you do when you're writing. When we were taught how to write, we were taught to write like this, weren't we? Straight lines. But with painting, you can move the brush any way you like to make the effect that you want. Now, just going to put it down, and I'm going to leave that. So this is my favourite bit. Make sure it's dry before you do this. You can use these again, actually. So I must put them down the side of your table. Yeah, 4 little pictures. How's that? 1, 2, 3, and 4. So to recap, wet into wet, wet into wet with a little bit taken out. A strong wash of, what was it, red and blue was placed down first. Then with a very dry brush, the boat shape was lifted out. Be kind to your brush when you're doing it, but you do need to kind of work it a bit. There was masking fluid placed on this in the areas where the flowers and the branches are, and a little bit of coarse sea salt, which didn't work terribly well, but never mind. So when the masking fluid was rubbed off, when it was completely dry, the paint and everything was dry, this was painted in over here. I did a little yellow, when this was completely dry, a little yellow wash over that, and a blue wash over that section, again to show you the transparency, how that works. Here I just came over the bit at the back there and kind of accentuated it a little bit more and dragged little bits down here. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you've now got a little bit of inspiration to go off and try your own ideas. Try these first, and then try some ideas of your own.